So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. You back here at BSN Network. This is the BSN Network podcast here today. It is Thursday, April 8th. Hopefully everybody's having a good day so far and a good rest of their day. Yesterday, it is in fact Thursday, April 8th here today. A lot of sports action last night. The Nets got a big win yesterday. KD's return. KD came off the bench, but had a very good game. Just was dominant from start to finish, and the Brooklyn Nets took care of business against the Pelicans, 139-111, so a big win for them. KD was perfect from the field, making all of his shots look like the KD from when he went out with the injuries and missed 23 games, so he missed a lot of games. But it doesn't matter. He is back. He is back in action, and the Nets are hopefully, with KD back, going to really get into a groove now that we are finally, getting KD back, one of the better players in the league right now. I mean, when you getting Kevin Durant back, there's something about Kevin Durant that's he's just on another level. And great win for the Nets yesterday. I know it was the Pelicans. I understand that, and there's going to be people out there that say, oh, it was only the Pelicans. Well, yeah, I get that, but you also got to realize the Pelicans got some talent too. They got Brandon Ingram. Lonzo Ball has had flashes this season. I wouldn't say he's as talented as Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson, not close, but he has had some games, and he obviously got Zion Williamson, who has lived up to his draft expectations, and he's a guy, an all-star, a guy who has been very good this season as well. Has had a very under-the-radar year. So the Pelicans got a good talent-wise team. I mean, this was a team that we thought was going to be competitive this season, and they've just struggled. But the Nets got the win yesterday, and you could say, oh, it was because they played the Pelicans, but we did crush them. I mean, we beat them by what? We almost beat them by 30. We beat them by 28 points, so we did dominate them. Or 27 points, I'm sorry. We dominated them. So you can't, I mean, it's not like it was it was 28 points. Yes, you can't say, oh, you barely beat them and we crushed them. We did what we needed to do. We almost put up 140 points on them, and the Nets got the job done. So a good win for the Nets. Yankees, not so much. It's not, like I said, 6 games into the year, but there is starting to become a little bit of a concern. As you get 10, 15, 20 games into the season, things start to shape out. You really can't make that excuse of, oh, it's only 50 games into the year, because by 50 games into the year, you should be, on your game. If you're having a good year, you're already doing it, right? So all that good stuff. The Yankees, it is looks like a little bit of a problem, runners in scoring position. We're not able to score with runners in scoring position. That seems like it's becoming a little bit of a problem. It's only 6 games into the year, so I don't want to overreact. But I would like to say if there's something if there's anything that's going to be concerned about, it's going to be the runners in scoring position, because that's something sometimes you can't fix. Sometimes teams are just good with runners in scoring position, and sometimes teams just aren't. That's sometimes things that you can't fix. The hitting, the hits, the pitching, that's all going to come around. I mean, you can't expect guys to go out there and crank 5 home runs in the first 6 games of the season. And you can't expect pitchers, unless if you're Garrett Cole, because he's on another level, to go out there, throw 15 strikeouts and a complete game shutout. You can't do that. You can't expect that. But the runners in scoring position, we've got to be better with that. So it's a tough loss for the Yankees. It came down to the wire. You can't say that it didn't. I mean, we lost to the Orioles, which is tough, but I mean, we got to find a way to get a couple wins here. We have a day off today, so regroup. Judge, I'm not too afraid of. I'm not worried about Judge. I know a lot of you probably wanted to hear my response on that. I'm not worried about Judge. I'm really not. I know it's side soreness. He had a day off yesterday. He's going to have a day off today. I do believe he'll be back in the lineup tomorrow. If he isn't, then I'm obviously wrong, but I have a strong belief he will be back in the lineup tomorrow. Does that mean he's going to be playing right field? I don't know. He might be DH. But I understand a lot of people with Judge's injury history, they want to always rush to the occasion of saying, oh, he's going to be on the 10-day IL. It's calm. I wouldn't so much say that yet. It's side soreness. He's played, 5 games into the year. It might just be a little bit of just getting back into the groove of the season. that he might have a little bit of that side soreness. I don't think it's anything major. I don't think it's going to be IL time, but that's me. I'm not a team trainer. I'm not a doctor. I don't know how it is. I don't know what level of the soreness is. All I can say is from past events that have happened with players, it's usually just a thing that just needs a little bit of time. So a day off yesterday for him. Obviously, the team has a day off today as they travel to Tampa, and then obviously the game tomorrow. I think he should be fine. I think he'll be okay. I think some of it's just the swinging. Maybe he just took a hard swing and it might just be, a little sore. I'm not too worried about it. But yeah, so that's kind of what happened with the sports yesterday. Rangers played today. Nets have a day off today. Yankees also had a day off today. So just Rangers on tonight for the New York sports, for my favorite teams anyway. Obviously, I'm sure other people as well. The Islanders played today. The Devils played today if you want to go into some of the hockey stuff. Knicks played yesterday. So a lot of teams with days off today, but the Rangers play, so that's good. And yeah, let's get into some of the topics. So these are topics for today. As I mentioned yesterday, I was talking about the Taylor Hall rumors going around in the NHL. Well, come to find out, it wasn't Taylor Hall, but today we struck our first trade. And I mentioned that, or yesterday it was. I mentioned that yesterday that Kyle Palmieri was a guy who was a healthy scratch, was rumored to get traded. The Devils literally said it. They were searching for a trade. He was a healthy scratch. So they expected this. And sure enough, Kyle Palmieri and Travis Zajac both got traded from the New Jersey Devils on over to the New York Islanders. They play obviously near that Long Island area there. They get a new place, I believe, next season, I believe. They have a new stadium. Right now, I believe they're still playing in Nassau Coliseum. I could be wrong on that. I'm not certain, so don't quote me on that, but I believe they are. So they got traded. So Kyle Palmieri and Travis Zajac both traded to the Devils. The Devils are getting two really good players, but the Islanders are getting two really good players, but the Devils are getting a first-round pick. So I want to talk about this trade. I want to talk about that first-round pick specifically, and I really want to take a deep dive into Kyle Palmieri because I really believe I talk about a lot of times deals that could either jolt a team to a championship or a deal that's not going to do much. This is one of these deals that I strongly believe is going to increase the chances of the Islanders winning a championship. I'll tell you why. They're getting two very good players, and I'll tell you why coming up, so we'll get into that. Then we'll get into a little bit of the Devils. They're going to rebuild. They're going to strip down. They're probably going to make even more moves when the deadline comes on April 12th, so we'll get into some of the next moves that the Devils could be making. Then our next topic will be Kyle Pitts rumors. Today, Jerry Jones came out and spoke publicly very highly about Kyle Pitts. He said how good he is. He says, how much he wants him and all that stuff. So it creates an interesting situation for the Dallas Cowboys. We've obviously talked a little bit about on this podcast, and I'm going to get into more draft coverage as we get closer and closer to the NFL draft. We're exactly 20 days out from the draft. So the draft's April 29th, so very, very soon. It's this month, so it's creeping up quickly here. But as we get into the next coming weeks, and definitely draft week, there's going to be a lot of draft talk from me. But Kyle Pitts, there's been high rumors on him. He's a very highly touted tight end out of Florida, and a guy that a lot of teams are looking at. We've seen a ton of teams looking at him. We've seen teams ranging from the 15th spot in the draft to teams ranging from the 4th spot in the draft. We've seen all kinds of interest from different spots in the draft, so it could create some interesting situations come draft night. So I want to get into that. I want to talk about if Jerry Jones is being real when he says this, or if he's kind of just saying it, hoping that he falls to them. But I'm going to tell you why the Cowboys should draft someone else instead of Kyle Pitts. And the reason I say this is because they need to upgrade their defense, and there's a guy out there that could really help them do it. And I will tell you who that is when we get to that segment. So we'll get to Kyle Pitts. Then we'll finish off the podcast with the New York sports update. Like always, the Rangers play today, Nets with a day off, Knicks with a day off, Yankees with a day off, Mets play today. They actually have a day game, so that game's on in the day, so they have a day game, so that game will be done really before all the night games come on. And obviously the Rangers play against the Penguins today. Big game for the Rangers today. We play against the Islanders tomorrow. We start up the Islanders again, so that's going to be a really hard matchup against the Islanders, as they're one of the best teams in the NHL right now. So it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy at all. It's going to be very hard, but it would be great to win tonight, go into the game tomorrow with a winning, with a little bit of a 2-game win streak would be really nice. And obviously, we've struggled against the Penguins this season. We're 2-5 against them on the year. This is our final matchup against the Penguins this season, unless if we meet them in the playoffs, which I don't even want to get to playoffs right now, which I hope we get there, but I don't even know how the matchups would set up. So hopefully we can finish off on a little bit of a winning note against the Penguins tonight. And then we head into tomorrow playing the Islanders, which isn't going to be easy. But if you want to make the playoffs, you got to win these difficult games. That's what the Rangers got to do. Rangers currently right now are the 5th seed. You need to be the 4th seed to get in. 1, 2, 3, and 4 seeds get in. Rangers right now are the 5th seed. So talk about right outside looking in. The Rangers are in that situation right now. These final 18, 17, 15 games of the season, then when you get really down to the final 10 games of the season, really going to matter for the New York Rangers. Going to be playing a lot of meaningful hockey down the stretch here. So with all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get right into it. So Kyle Palmieri, Travis Zajac traded to Islanders. Devils get first-round pick and more. So the New Jersey Devils and the New York Islanders have struck the first big trade. Actually, just a little bit ago, we heard about a trade of the Florida Panthers, I believe, and the Chicago Blackhawks. It wasn't anything big. It was a smaller trade, but this right here, I think, is a very big trade. So obviously, the NHL trade deadline has not happened yet. It's happened. It's going to happen in a couple of days here. It's April 8th, so 4 days. The NHL trade deadline. So actually on Monday is when the NHL trade deadline will be. So Monday, April 12th is the NHL trade deadline. We'll see a lot of trades going on in that day. I'll keep you updated. I'll be doing what I do with the NHL, with the NBA trade deadline, not going through kind of one main deal. I'm going to be going through all the deals and keeping track too. I expect the Rangers to be relatively active at the deadline. I don't think we're going to be crazy active, but I do think we'll probably make a move or two. Is that a buying move or is that a selling move? I'm not sure. I think it really all depends on what's the best situation for the team and what's the best deal they can get their hands onto. So the first big trade, really the first trade in general of the NHL trade deadline doesn't come by any surprise. Kyle Palmieri gets traded. What did come by surprise was the team he got traded to. Now, I mean, it's not crazy surprising because the New York Islanders did obviously lose Anders Lee a little bit ago, earlier in the year. Actually, it was relatively early in the year. I would say it's probably before the halfway point of the season. They obviously lost Anders Lee to the torn ACL that sidelined him for the rest of the season. He should be back next year, but obviously that's a different discussion, different day. So the Devils, obviously, we all know the Devils are a struggling hockey team. They're a team that's, they're second to last in the Eastern Division. They're only in front of the Buffalo Sabres, who are the worst team in the NHL. So it obviously makes sense why they're second to last. So remove the Sabres from that division. They're last. They're in last place. But right now, the Devils aren't. The Devils are not going to make the playoffs. This move just tells you that they are not going for playoffs right now. Now, they're 13-8-6 currently on the year, and they actually played tonight. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do without Zajac, without Palmieri. They've been without Palmieri for a couple of games because he's been a healthy scratch looking for a trade, but Zajac caught me by surprise. When I heard that Travis Zajac wasn't going to be a member of the team anymore, I was relatively surprised because this is a guy, he's a veteran. He's a veteran in the locker room on a younger team. Palmieri wasn't surprising. There's a lot of teams out there that are looking for a good, solid right winger, and Palmieri was the guy that was the guy. Palmieri's been with the Devils for a couple years now. He's been with them for a relatively long time. I believe you might call me crazy here, but I believe like 4 or 5 years or something like that. He's been with the Devils for a long time here. He has never been able to really help them get to the next level that they've obviously had. He's had definitely his good moments with the Devils. But the Devils are obviously a team that's struggling down in the dumps. So they're going to be sellers. And when you watch the deadline, they're going to be giving up a lot of guys. And I don't know what other players they could be possibly looking to get up. They could be looking to give up Wood. They could be looking to give up some other players as well. And who knows? Maybe they just, give up a player that, is not a big name and give up a player and get maybe some cash considerations or a later round pick. We all knew this was coming, though. And the Islanders, I believe right now, I get the Devils get the first round pick, but there's something about that first round pick that I want to talk about. I'll get to that in a minute here after I talk about the Islanders. The Islanders definitely right now, right this second, have won this deal. And I've always talked about this. I've always talked about this whenever I'm talking about sports, whether that's baseball, basketball, football, or in this case, hockey. Whenever there is a move that is made, there is a difference between a move that's going to help propel your team to a championship and a move that's going to help your team, but it's not going to be the difference between a championship or not, or playoffs or not. In this case, the Islanders have a very well-rounded roster to make a strong push towards the Stanley Cup. They came one series away from it last season. They obviously lost to the Lightning. And obviously, if they won that series, they would have been in the Stanley Cup. Now, let me mind you, that was the bubble, a little bit of different. It was an odd situation, but the Islanders still have a very good team. Good coach, Matthew Barzal, one of the best goaltenders in the league in Semyon Varlamov, and they're only adding here by Kyle Palmieri. This is a move that I believe would be a move that you would consider a move that takes the Islanders from right here on the list of making a playoff to making a Stanley Cup push to just about here. This move really benefits the New York Islanders. And the Islanders have been playing well, don't get me wrong. But you could tell there's been a little bit of a missing... You could tell there was a little bit of that missing energy, that star play since Anders Lee's went down. It's been more of a balanced effort. And we've seen Jean-Gabriel Pageau come out. I mean, this was a guy who had a good year last year, but this year he's bursted onto the scene. Without Anders Lee, he's gotten more of an increased role, and he's been dominant. He's been dominant this season, especially recently. He's been getting goals every game. He seems like he's scoring a goal and an assist every night. He's been fun to watch. And this is a move that's going to really help that. And I think without Anders Lee, the Islanders definitely were still winning games and stuff, but there was something about that team that just wasn't the same without Anders Lee. He's a leader. He's a smart player. He's a quick skater. He's a very good goal scorer. I mean, when you lose one of your top goal scorers, that's a serious problem. Matthew Barzal and Anders Lee were very good when they got the opportunity to play on the ice together. Very solid. Two very good players. And without Anders Lee, it definitely, you could tell, left a little bit of hole on that roster. Now, they're still winning. They're still doing good. But they're not, I would say, the same team without Anders Lee. And now they strike this deal. Getting Kyle Palmieri, getting Travis Zajac. Now, the Islanders, I would say, are kind of in the middle of a relatively young team and an older team. They've definitely got some guys. I mean, Barzal is pretty experienced. He's been around for a little bit here. And now you're bringing a guy in Kyle Palmieri who's been around for a pretty good amount of time, and you're bringing a guy in like Travis Zajac who's been around for also a good time. Two veterans, two guys. And I really believe that Kyle Palmieri is going to be the big deal, big move in this deal. A right wing. He's a solid player on offense. He also gets back on defense. He's very smart. He's played a ton of games in his career. He's seen a lot happen, and he's had some playoff action too. He's seen a lot happen. He has seen a lot happen in his career. He has been through a lot in his career involving like games and stuff like that. He has done a lot in his career. He's a very smart player. He's smart. He's quick to the puck. He's a good shooter. He plays the game with a little bit of that different edge. It's almost like, you know, he's out there. Whenever he's out there, Palmieri is making a little bit of an impact. And this season, I know he hasn't had a great year. He's had his ups and downs. He's had some moments this year where he's been good. He's had some moments this year where he hasn't been good. And the reason I think that part of that is because all the trade rumors were going around. The Devils roster right now is in a very odd situation. There's young talent, but then there's guys that you have no clue why they're even on the roster. There's all these different players on the roster, and I feel like they're trying to mix and mash and put this guy here and get this guy here. And for a guy like a veteran like Kyle Palmieri, it's tough to try to build chemistry with all these new guys. One day you got this guy in the lineup, the next day you got this guy. It's all kind of mixing and mashing and doing things like that. And sure, you could say, from a veteran perspective, he should know how to chemistry. He should know how to build chemistry pretty well, but for a guy like Kyle Palmieri who's been around for a long time with the Devils and stuff, and has been around the organization, it was kind of odd to see new faces in every game, and he wasn't able to build that confidence with his teammates, wasn't able to build that in a way, wasn't really able to build that just that chemistry with his teammates, and that's big. I mean, that's not going to help you out at all, and that's why I think the Islanders are getting a really solid player, and I think Kyle Palmieri is going to make a huge impact. It's a guy who's a very good player. He's a very good player. And he's been around a lot. and very solid player, and I understand this season it hasn't been great for him. It hasn't been great. He's obviously had some of his ups and downs, but part of the reason is because he's playing on a team that's kind of discombobulated right now, and I think we can all agree on that. It's kind of a discombobulated team. It's a team that is doing a lot of mixing and mashing, and for a guy like Kyle Palmieri, it's tough to build chemistry with your teammates. So the Devils, it's a big hole in their roster that they're losing by giving up Kyle Palmieri, and I truly think that because, it's a guy who's been with the team for a long time now. He's seen a lot happen. He's been through a lot with the team, from the highs and the lows, and you're missing out on a guy. I wouldn't say he's the face of the franchise, but he's definitely known by many Devils fans and many NHL fans out there. He's definitely grown a name for himself, and he's had some excellent moments with the Devils. And you obviously know you're going through a big rebuild when he goes, and one of your leaders, one of your veteran, one of your really leaders isn't on the team anymore. So he'll team up with a lot of good guys. He's going to team up with Cal Clutterbuck, Anthony Anthony Belverio, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. He'll team up as well. If I remember correctly, guys like Semyon Varlamov, obviously at goalie. You got Brock Nelson over there at the Islanders. You got guys like Matt Martin, Casey Cizikas. So there's a lot of good guys on that team. There's a lot of good wingers. There's a lot of, obviously, now Kyle Palmieri. And obviously Anders Lee, he was a left wing. So they lost him. And now they're bringing Kyle Palmieri, who also is a winger. He's a right winger, but, veteran. He's been around for a long time. He could play either wing, which is a big upgrade there for the New York Islanders. So Kyle Palmieri's run in Kyle Palmieri's run with the Devils is over, but now he begins a new run with the New York Islanders now. And I want to just see something here. So this season he's had 34 games played, 8 goals, 9 assists, 17 points. In his career, he scored over 183 goals, 172 assists, 595 games played. All right, so let's see. So he's played with the Devils for 6 years. So this was his 6th year with the Devils. So, like I said, 5-6 years. He's been with the Devils for a long time. Before that, he was with the Ducks. So he's been in the league for about 11 years now. So he's got some experience. You're bringing in an experienced player. And obviously, sure, there might be a little bit of rust, given that he hasn't played since April 2nd, so he's been out for about 6 days with the healthy scratch. But he is back on the ice today with practicing with the Islanders, and 30 years old, a guy who he's a guy who's he's not too tall. He's a relatively smaller guy. Doesn't weigh much. He's a quick skater. He's a guy that gets to the puck quickly, makes smart decisions when he has the puck. You're talking about a move that's really going to help out a team. This is the move that's really going to help out the New York Islanders. So Kyle Palmieri, Travis Zajac traded to the Islanders. Devils get first-round pick and more. The New York Islanders acquired forwards Travis Zajac and Kyle Palmieri from the New Jersey Devils on Wednesday ahead of the NHL's April 12th trade deadline. New York is sending forwards A.J. Greer, Mason Jobst, a first-round pick in 2021 and a conditional fourth-round pick in 2022 to the Devils. New Jersey will also retain 50% of the salaries for both Palmieri and Zajac, so they're not even enduring many of those salaries. Palmieri, 30, is a native of Long Island and has posted 8 goals and 9 assists in 34 games this season. Zajac, 35, was the 20th overall pick by New Jersey in 2004 and has 7 goals and 11 assists in 33 games this season. Zajac, 35 years old, 5 years older than Palmieri. Like I said, Palmieri's a veteran, but Zajac, as I mentioned earlier, is even more of a veteran. And Sajac's obviously been with the Islanders, or been with the Devils for a long time here. And obviously an opportunity to try to, obviously an opportunity for him to try to, revamp a little bit and go on into a winning team. The Islanders 25-10-4, 54 points, entered Wednesday tied for first place in the East Division with the Washington Capitals. The Devils are expected to miss the postseason for the 8th time in the last 9 years after falling to the Los Angeles Kings in the 2012 Stanley Cup Final. New Jersey entered Wednesday at 13-18-6, 32 points, and 14 points back of the Boston Bruins for the 4th and final playoff spot in the division. If not for a Buffalo Sabres team that strung together an 18-game winless streak, the Devils would be squarely in last. This is clearly a move to help the Devils in the long run, while New York appears all in on a postseason run this year. Sajak is set to reach free agency this offseason after finishing an 8-year, $46 million deal that began in 2013. Palmieri is also expected to reach free agency this offseason after completing a 5-year, $23.3 million contract. According to Cap Friendly, Islanders still have over $3 million in cap space to work with ahead of the deadline. As April 12th nears, New York may still have a few moves left to make. So Devils GM Tom Fitzgerald, which is what lets me into my next point, I hope the pick we get is a 32nd. I hope both of these gentlemen win the cup, meaning Kyle Palmieri and Travis Sajak. So that's what I wanted to get into next. So this is the Islanders' first round pick. And obviously we all know how draft picks work. It's whatever the team does. So, for example, let's just say you win the championship, right? And you win the championship, right? You're automatically going to get, unless if it's a lottery, but you're automatically going to get the last pick in the draft if you win a championship. Because obviously you're not going to get the first, unless if they trade you the first. Which we've seen that before in sports. You get the last pick in the draft, unless if sometimes they trade out of it. But that's because the team who wins it obviously doesn't need to draft as high because they're that good already. That's kind of the simplest way I could put it. So this is a problem with the first round pick. The Devils will get their own first round pick. So I shouldn't say it's a problem because you're gonna get you're gonna get a lottery pick this year if you're the Devils. Devils might very well get another number one pick. They're one of the worst teams in the NHL right now. You got to get up there with the Sabres and all of them though. But in regards to the pick here, they might have a lottery pick, a top 10, top 5 pick. But then the pick that you get here it might be a 32nd. And that's a big gap. There's a big difference there. It's a big gap, especially in the NHL. Because a lot of times these guys that get picked 15 to 20th picks in the draft are going to go down usually to, these different, the farm system leagues and play there. So the Devils might not even have this first round pick that they're going to get from the Islanders until a couple seasons from now, which is exactly their point though. They are building towards the future. But I don't know. I just think this is such a good deal for the Islanders. And I understand they gave a first round pick, but do they really need it? Anthony Beauvillier, Kyle Clutterbuck, Semyon Varlamov in the net. Now Palmieri and Sajak. Matt Martin, who's a goon. I mean that in a good way. A guy who sticks up for his teammates. You got guys like Matt Barzal. This is a stacked Islanders team now. And they lost a winger in Anders Lee when he tore his ACL. And now they're gaining a forward winger in Kyle Palmieri. He can get the job done. And I think that's big. I think this is a very good trade for the Islanders. I get it from a Devils perspective. I know a lot of Devils fans probably aren't happy about the trade. Some might be. Because obviously, if you're being honest, if you're sitting here and being honest, if you're a Devils fan sitting here, you're not going to make the playoffs this season. You know that. You know you're not going to go on some insane winning streak and make the playoffs. You know that. You're building towards the years in advance. But you might think that Kyle Palmieri, 30, could have been an asset for the future. Not future, I shouldn't say, but could have been an asset for another year or two. And then you give him out. And maybe you go ahead and re-sign him to a year or two deal. Help him, help him teach some of the young guys like Travis Sajak. He's been around for a very long time. He got drafted in 2004. For a young guy coming in, you would love to learn from a veteran like that. A guy like a Sajak who's been around in the league for a long time. And they could be, player coaches in a way. But they gave him up. And obviously the Devils feel that setback. So the Devils are going to have 2 first-round picks. Whatever pick they get from just the season, their first-round pick they already have, plus the pick that they got from the Islanders. And the guys that they've got, not very big names, guys that kind of just, they were almost like guys that were kind of just like, I'll kind of just guys that, the team is kind of like, first, we'll give you Palmieri, Sajak, then a first, and we want a first, and they're like, let's just slide these two guys in there. So, and also, like I mentioned, a 2022 conditional first-round pick as well. So, fourth-round pick, I'm sorry. So, it's 4th-round pick. I'm not trying to downgrade it, but, it's not It's not anything to be like, oh my gosh, like, we got a 4th round pick, that's great. It's kind of just one of those other things that just goes right in there. So, it's definitely, I'm many people, I'm sure, and I was shocked too when I heard about it. It's shocked to see that Travis Sajak was traded. You should not be shocked that Kyle Palmieri got traded. Especially if you know anything about the Devils and if you know anything about the NHL trade line, you should not be shocked that Kyle Palmieri got traded. He literally was a healthy scratch because they were looking to trade him. So that does not surprise me. Travis Sajak surprises me. I would have assumed he would have just finished out the deal. Devils would have gave him the money, enter free agency, and boom, just like that, there you go. But that's not the case. And to be honest, Sajak, he hasn't had a great year, but he's got 7 goals and 11 assists, which is more than Palmieri, 8 goals, 9 assists, and he's played less games. He's only played 33 games. Palmieri's played 34 games. So to be honest, Sajak hasn't had a terrible year. He's got 18 points. Palmieri's only got, 17, and, he's played 33 games. So realistically, to be honest, it's only a 1-point difference. But still, Sajak has scored more, has had more points. Now, Palmieri's led him in goals, but Sajak leads him in assists. So, it's going to be interesting. And who knows, maybe they put these guys, I don't know what the Islanders' whole game plan is now, I don't know what the whole game plan is, but maybe they put these guys on the same line. Or, an opportunity to see what they could do. Because they played with each other for a long time. Palmieri signed a 5-year deal, 5-6 years ago, and Sajak's been with the Devils forever now. So, obviously, you could think about, what they do there with the lines, and that's all up to the Islanders. I don't quite know about that. That's all up to Barry Trotz, the head coach, who will decide that. But, for when you lost that winger and Anders Lee early in the year with the torn ACL, you're now bringing in another winger in Kyle Palmieri who can score, can be assist. He can play a big role in getting this team to the playoffs. So, we'll see how it all plays out. But, big move to start it off. Travis Sajak, Kyle Palmieri traded to the Islanders for a 1st-round pick and 2 other players in a conditional 4th is your first move of the NHL trade deadline. So, so with all that being said, that will do it for this part of the show. And now, coming up next here, we're going to get to Kyle Pitts. So, earlier today, Jerry Jones said some things about Kyle Pitts, about how he's a really good player, how he really likes him, and it's creating some interesting stories, creating some interesting conversations. I will tell you what I think of the move. I will tell you what I think if they're completely being real about it, or if Jerry Jones is just saying that, and if he's just saying that. We'll get into that coming up next here. Okay, so as the NFL draft nears, as I should say, as the NFL draft nears, rumors, predictions are starting to fly all the way around. That's what's fun about draft. And by the way, Monday, I will start up my mock draft Monday. So I'll give you my mock draft, my first 10 picks, and then actually on draft day, I'll give you my full 32. So mock drafts have been coming out, predictions, a lot of, I wouldn't even say it's rumors, a lot of the month of April for the NFL and the draft is a lot of predictions. It's a lot of predictions. It's not much rumors. It's not much, this team's interested in this guy. It's a lot of, this team should go target this guy. If they do, this will help that and all that stuff. And I love to make those predictions. That's what a mock draft is a prediction. Now, I usually do my mock drafts based off of what teams should do, and also part of it is what I think they will do. Now, right, there's some teams out there that might draft for example, Cowboys. I think they should draft a cornerback first round. Are they going to do that? Well, these most recent stuff that Jerry Jones said, they might be targeting a tight end in Kyle Pitts. So there's obviously some stuff that you think might happen and some stuff that you obviously predict. So as the mock drafts start coming out and as things start coming out there, we're going to hear a lot of what teams are going to do and what teams are going to do. What's the plan for each team? So earlier today, there was this thing that came out, and Jerry Jones sometimes does just like to open up his mouth just to open it. He sometimes likes to just say stuff to start things, and I think a lot of us can see that. I mean, it's the truth, and I'm not trying to just say that just to say that. It's the truth. There's sometimes Jerry Jones or sometimes some of these owners just say that, where they'll just open up their mouth just to go ahead and start problems, start havoc. Because you know how the sports world reacts. When someone says something, it's, oh, wow, this is insane. Oh, this, and this. If a player says, if a player writes something like, or something, if a player writes something like, whatever the case may be, it could be such a stupid thing, and everyone reacts like, oh my gosh, this guy's getting traded, he's going to sign with this team, blah, blah, blah. So sometimes coaches, players, mainly players, and in this case an owner and Jerry Jones, sometimes like to open up their mouth to create what already is a lot of just talking and predictions, kind of put a little bit of a twist on it. And now people are all of a sudden saying things, now all of a sudden people are predicting otherwise. So Cowboys rumors, Jerry Jones infatuated with Kyle Pitts ahead of 2021 NFL Draft. So if you don't know who Kyle Pitts is, which many of you do, I'm sure know, especially if you followed anything about the NFL Draft, Kyle Pitts is a tight end out of Florida. He is the best tight end in this draft, one of the best players in this draft, one of the better tight ends we've seen come out of college in recent history. And if you don't believe me, go back and watch his combine and see what he did. This is a guy that ran an insane 40-yard dash, unofficial. Or go back and look at his pro day. Ran an unofficial 40-yard dash. It's unofficial because it didn't officially. It's not like at the combine. The combine's official. If you just do it at your pro day, it's considered unofficial. But the guy ran like a 4.3 40-yard dash, which is close to record breaking for a tight end. That's not usually the case. A lot of times tight ends run 4.4s, maybe 4.5s, because they're usually slower. Tight ends usually aren't as fast. Well, Kyle Pitts obviously is on a different level. His vertical was unreal. I believe his vertical, I think it was either him or Jamar Chase. I think his vertical broke some sort of record. I don't know what it was, or if it wasn't a record, it was just insane. But his vertical was unreal. His pro day was amazing. I mean, his pro day, some of the catches he made, his 40-yard dash, his vertical, all that stuff. I mean, it was just on another level. He showed the scouts. The scouts already knew that teams already knew how good he was. He showed them further how good he is. So he is by far the best tight end in this draft and arguably one of the best tight ends we've seen come out of college in recent history. Now, I'm not going to compare him to some other tight ends because that's just unfair. But definitely a guy who is coming out of college. He is NFL ready by far. And obviously, there's a lot of teams within the top 10. So right now, the Dallas Cowboys stand at number 10 in the NFL draft. Now, could they move back up? Whatever they do, they could completely trade out of the spot. But I thought this was interesting that Jerry Jones said this, because right now the Cowboys stand at number 10. And currently in the NFL draft, there's about 2 to 3 teams in the top 10 that could be very well looking for a tight end. There's also a couple teams that could be looking for an offensive lineman. Those couple of teams that could be looking for a tight end could be the Falcons could be looking for a tight end. They could be a team that's very well looking for one. The Bengals could be looking for a guy, a wide receiver, tight end, wide out kind of thing. They could be looking at them. They could also be looking at an offensive lineman like Penei Sewell. You could look at, the Lions. They don't need one. They have T.J. Hawkinson. You could look at maybe the Panthers. The Broncos don't need one. So there's about 2 to 3 teams that could definitely use a there's a couple of teams that could definitely use a tight end. There's a couple of teams there that could definitely use a tight end. Now, I would go ahead and say if the Jets didn't trade Sam Darnold, I would say you could put their name into the conversation for Kyle Pitts, but they traded Sam Darnold, so we're going for a quarterback, obviously, with the number 2 overall pick, which I'm perfectly okay with. That's why I wanted that to be all along. So there's a couple of teams within. Right now, multiple mock drafts have the Falcons looking at Kyle Pitts and going to get him. They currently stand at the 4th overall pick. Falcons got an interesting decision on their hands, though. They've been willing to give up that 4th overall pick. So that creates, and multiple teams have been interested. So is that the Cowboys kind of, kind of hinting towards us that they're trying to get a deal done to go up to number 4 and draft Kyle Pitts? Kyle Pitts is very good. And one thing that Kyle Pitts is very good with, and the NFL nowadays is turning into that. You see, obviously, he can block. He can do that. If you need him to block, he can block. But back then, I'm not talking about back, really long ago, back in, the 80s and the 90s. I'm even talking about, 5-10 years ago. A lot of the league was based off of a lot more runs, a lot more run play. Mainly though, a long time ago, the NFL, that's when the fullback was big, the running back was big, there was barely any passing. You would see a quarterback throw the ball 6-7 times a game, and a running back run the ball 30-35s. You would see out of their 50 plays, it'd be 40 runs and 10 passes. Nowadays, it's 40 passes and 15 runs. It's crazy. So Kyle Pitts, this league is turning into a passing league. You see running backs more now that they realize they need to adjust. You see running backs now turning into better pass catchers. Alvin Kamara, Le'Veon Bell, some of the better pass catchers in the league. You see running backs now turning into more versatile. Not just running the ball, they're turning into wideouts in a way. And a lot of these offenses nowadays, too, are a lot of West Coast offenses, are a lot of offenses that move a lot around at the line of scrimmage, which is exactly what Kyle Pitts does well. He's a guy that's very versatile. He can do a lot. He can go deep. He's very strong. He could also catch a short pass. So a lot of this West Coast offense stuff that very well when the quarterback breaks the huddle, you could be running a deep route. Well, he could call out an audible, and all of a sudden you're running a short route, and Kyle Pitts can do just that. Sometimes tight ends or receivers are one-dimensional. They can, catch a short ball and run it upfield for 10 yards, but they're not good long ball. Well, Kyle Pitts can do both. He can catch a short one. He can catch a long one. A lot of these offenses now, they are doing a lot of on-the-line adjustments. Sometimes in the huddle, they say a play, and then they look at the defense and they realize, oh, wow, this isn't going to work. And they audible it, and they even sometimes could audible it again. Or they change one receiver's route. Nowadays in the NFL, there's a lot of changing, a lot of communication at the offensive line. It's not break the huddle, go up to the line, and that's the play you're running. And you see offenses, they succeed because they do that. And offenses that don't succeed, they don't change at the offensive line. Kyle Pitts is great at that. He's a versatile player. You need him to run 30 yards down the field and catch a one-on-one, he can do that. You need him to run a 5-yard check down, he can do that. You need him to run a 10-yard slant, he can do that. You need him to run a little mesh route for 3-4 yards, he can do that. He's versatile. He can do it all. Deep, short, medium. He can do it all. He's a receiving tight end. He's very versatile. He fits well in offenses that do a lot of changing at the offensive line. And for a guy like Dak Prescott, he would be a good matchup. But there's a big problem with the Dallas Cowboys. And this is why I don't know if getting Kyle Pitts would be the right decision. Their defense is terrible. Their defense is awful. And I understand. You obviously got, I understand. You went out and got Keanu Neal in free agency. But other than that, your defense is terrible. And I know you got, Lawrence and Leighton Vander Esch, and there's some guys in that defense that are definitely solid. But your secondary is horrendous. You need a secondary. And J.C. Horn out of South Carolina is exactly what the Cowboys could do. He's a guy that is good in zone, and he can also blitz well. He's a guy that can do it all. He can be a man, zone, whatever you need him to do. He's very versatile, too. I would take J.C. Horn at number 10 if I'm the Cowboys. Now, if you trade up, I would say it's too early to take J.C. Horn. I wouldn't say you trade up to number 4 and take J.C. Horn, because I don't think any teams are going out there and getting J.C. Horn. I don't mean that negative. The teams in the top 10, top 9 of the picks, they're looking for a lot of offensive players. And you see it a lot of times. A lot of offensive players are taken within the first 9, and then you get to the later picks, which is when defensive players come off the board. I mean, unless if unlike last year where the Redskins or Washington took Chase Young second overall, which was perfectly fine. We all expected that. Kyle Pitts is very good, but I don't know if the Cowboys should go out and get him. And I understand if they get him, Dak Prescott's weapons would be unbelievable. You would have CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and Kyle Pitts. That is scary. Very, very scary. I mean, if that's not worrisome to other defenses, then I don't know what is. Kyle Pitts, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, and an Elliott in the backfield and Dak at quarterback. You're talking about players that are going to be, CeeDee Lamb's, I have a feeling he's going to be a star. Kyle Pitts, definitely going to be a star. Amari Cooper's had a very good career. Michael Gallup, he's still young, still growing. I don't know if he'll be a top 10 in his career ever, but he's a solid player. And then you got Dak, who's top 10 at his position, and Elliott, who's also, I would say, probably top 10 as well, even though he struggled a little bit last season. The weapons on offense and the weapons Dak would have would just be unbelievable. I get that. But I think the biggest need for the Cowboys is defense. Now, you could go after second rounds of defense and stuff like that, but you also got to realize there's some other really good tight ends. Pat Freiermuth from Penn State, he obviously was projected to be probably one of the first tight ends off the board. Well, he got a severe injury, so his draft stock plummeted a little bit. He'll probably be in the second, third round now. Cowboys could very well go out and get him. That would also be a very scary offense still. So, I would say for the Cowboys, they should go after J.C. Horn first, or even if not him, another cornerback, and then take your offensive player. Because right now, offense isn't a big need for the Cowboys. They've got Elliott, they got Lamb, they got Gallup, they got Cooper, they got obviously Dak already. Dak's perfectly surrounded with a bunch of weapons. Offenses isn't the main need for the Cowboys. I would say go for defense. Cowboys rumors, Jerry Jones infatuated with Kyle Pitts ahead of 2021 NFL Draft. One player has reportedly caught the eye of Dallas Cowboys general manager Jerry Jones leading up to the 2021 NFL Draft. We're hearing this thing about Jerry Jones, the owner of the Cowboys and the GM, being infatuated with Kyle Pitts. ESPN insider Chris Mortensen said Dallas has the number 10 overall pick in the upcoming draft. On the surface, it's easy to see why Jones would like someone like Pitts for the Dallas offense. He would join a group of talented playmakers in Ezekiel, Amari Cooper, and CeeDee Lamb around Dak Prescott, and likely wouldn't have to worry about facing double teams in his rookie season. That would create a significant issue for defense because of matchup problems he creates with his overall athleticism and size 6'6" from a tight end position. Very strong player. Linebackers would struggle to keep up with him downfield, and he could overpower plenty of safeties even at the NFL level. He used that skill set to tally 43 catches for 770 yards and 12 touchdowns in just 8 games during the 2020 season for the Florida Gators. While that possibility is surely intriguing for Jones and the Cowboys, team also needs to address its defense to compete for a Super Bowl. Dallas finished 23rd in the league in yards allowed and 28th in points allowed, while missing the playoffs entirely in 2020 at 6-10, picking in the top 10 figures otherwise. Figures to give a chance to add an impact defender to otherwise wouldn't have the opportunity to land following a more successful season. The BR NFL scouting department projected the Cowboys to select Alabama cornerback Patrick Surtain, the second, with the number 10 pick in its first 2021 mock draft. So that one I didn't see that mock draft, but some other mock drafts I've seen is J.C. Horn, obviously Patrick Surtain. Patrick Surtain's also very good. But they're very similar players. Scheme fit wise, I guess it would all be up to the Cowboys. I thought Surtain might be taken a little later, like 2 or 3 picks. I forget what team I had him in mind with. But yeah, so there's obviously a bunch of stuff. Patrick Surtain or J.C. Horn would be very solid, I think. But I just don't know. I just don't know. I could very well see the Eagles or someone like that. Eagles, a team like the Chargers, someone like that. They could, like a team like that could be using another one. But Patrick Surtain or J.C. Horn or whatever, whoever it is, I would take defense first because then you can address. There's a lot of other good tight ends in that second round. Offense right now isn't your biggest concern. It's the defense. And I read the stats. The defense is terrible. 23rd in the league in yards allowed and 28th in points allowed. I mean, you got to have a better defense. Defense wins championships. And you got an offensive-minded coach, too. So his strength is in defense, which is perfectly fine. Offensive-minded coach are perfectly fine, I'm just saying. So we'll see how it all plays out. But let's get to the New York Sports Update. I'd like to hear your thoughts on the NFL Draft down below. Any predictions you got where Kyle Pitts will land, that would be ideal. If you're going to send a comment, that would be the one. Where will Kyle Pitts land? Do you think the Cowboys go after him? Do you think he goes to another team? What are your thoughts on him? All right, so let's get into the action last night. So yesterday, the Suns won, Nuggets won, Rockets won, Grizzlies won, Hornets won, Celtics won, Pacers won, and Wizards won. Nets also won yesterday, 139-111. Nets moved to 36-16 on the season. Big win for the Nets. Durant had 17 points. Aldridge, 22 points. Kyrie led the way with 24 points, continuing to dominate our opponents. Today we got the Bulls, Raptors. I'll give Bulls the win. Heat, Lakers, I'll give Heat the win. Cavs, Thunder, give Cavs the win. Mavericks, Bucks, give Mavericks the win. Kings, Pistons, give Kings the win. Clippers, Suns, give Clippers the win. And Jazz, Trailblazers, give Jazz the win. As for the NHL, yesterday the Kings won, Wild won, Blues won, Maple Leafs won, and Oilers won. Today we got the Capitals, Bruins, I'll give Capitals the win. Devils, Sabres, I'll give Devils the win. Islanders, Flyers, I'll give Islanders the win. Canadiens, Jets, I'll give Canadiens the win. Lightning, Blue Jackets, I'll give Lightning the win. Oilers, Senators, I'll give Oilers the win. Hurricanes, Panthers, give Hurricanes the win. Predators, Red Wings, give Predators the win. Blackhawks, Stars, I'll give Blackhawks the win. And that's it. Rangers also play today. Rangers come in this game 18-15-5. Penguins come in this game 24-13-2. This game comes on today, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ESPN Plus and MSG. Over-under is 6 for this game. Rangers are favored, although 53% of people are going for the Penguins. 47% of people are going for the Rangers. So most people are going for the Penguins. The Rangers had an 8-goal game last game, and I was going to talk about Igor Shesterkin today and his success, but I decided with Kyle Pitts, I decided to talk about him. I don't know. I mean, I guess I'll give Rangers the win. They're just so it's just so tough because they win one, they show how good they are at times, and then they just lose a questionable game. So hopefully we get the win. I guess I'll give them a win. As for yesterday in baseball, Rockies won, Mariners won, Phillies won, Giants won, A's won, Cardinals won, Braves won, Brewers won, Braves won, Brewers won, Rangers won, Indians won, Red Sox won, Twins won, Reds won, and Braves won the second half of the doubleheader as well. As for yesterday, the Orioles won 4-3. Yankees lost 4-3. Yankees moved to 3-3 on the season. Couldn't get the job done. Runners in scoring position. Story of the game. I mean, you got to score runners in scoring position. Second and third. Second, third base, 1 out. Bases loaded, no outs. I mean, just got to score. And I'm okay if you only get 1 run out of it because it's a run. But, I mean, please at least score. I'm tired of this 1 out, second and third, and we don't get a run scored. The two hitters, two first batters get on base. And it's a pop-up, a strikeout, and a ground out. You can't have that. You can't. The leadoff hitter gets on base. Then it's, you just can't have that. Double to start off the inning. Then it's a single, first and third. You ground into a double play. You can't have that. Got to get hits. Line drives, singles, doubles, please. As for today's games, Mets, Marlins play today. I'll give the Mets the win. Marlins have been terrible. 1-5 on the season. I'll give Mets the win. Cubs, Pirates. I'll give Cubs the win. Red Sox, Orioles, I'll give Red Sox the win. Rockies, Diamondbacks, I'll give Rockies the win. Twins, Mariners, I'll give Twins the win. White Sox, Royals, I'll give White Sox the win. Brewers, Cardinals, I'll give Brewers the win. Angels, Blue Jays, I'll give Blue Jays the win. Astros, Cheaters, A's. A's have been off to a terrible start. I'll give the Cheaters the win. By the way, Mets today. If you're interested in watching that game's on MLB Network, and Taijuan Walker's on the mound. So he's making his Mets debut. Obviously, they got him in the offseason, so we'll see how that goes. That should be a good game. I think the Mets will win because the Marlins are terrible. They're 1-5 right now, but we'll see how it all plays out. As for fantasy baseball, I'm currently winning 353 to 259, so going pretty good there. Today I've got going Yadier Molina, Alex Bregman, Marcus Semien, Carlos Correa, Christian Yelich, Whit Merrifield, Dylan Carlson, Michael Taylor, and Jorge Soler. Those are the guys I got going. And then, And then pitchers, some relief pitchers if they come in. Injury report, Matt Olson. Olson knee isn't starting Wednesday's game against the Dodgers. I would assume that's the same thing tonight. So we'll see how he plays out. Hopefully he can get healthy and start playing games. As for fantasy basketball, I'm currently losing 617 to 613. Today I've got going Jimmy Butler, Jeremy Grant, Pascal Siakam, and Victor Oladipo. Big injury report. Jeremy Grant's day today. Grant has been ruled out for Thursday's game at Sacramento with right knee soreness. Fred VanVleet's out. VanVleet hip has been suspended 1 game for his role in Tuesday's altercation with Lakers Shams Charania of the Athletic Report. So there was a little bit of an altercation there. So he got suspended 1 game. So he's not going to be playing. So all I've got tonight is Jimmy Butler, Victor Oladipo, and Pascal Siakam. So got to find a way to... I'm going to have to make a couple moves here before the games start. As for today, as for fantasy hockey, I'm currently losing 77 to 57. Today I've got going Mika Zibanejad, Steven Stamkos, Artemi Panarin, Braden Point, Nicholas Backstrom, Nikola Ehlers, Joe Pavelski, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Jeff Petrie, and Shea Weber, and Adam Larson. And now I got Semyon Varlamov. So that's that. Fantasy hockey, I was doing so well, and now I'm losing. Hopefully I can come back. Fantasy basketball, I've got 3 players that are out and 2 that are day-to-day. So 5 total injuries in fantasy basketball. That's not good. Especially come playoff time when you're trying to manage it all. Hopefully they can all come healthy playoff time. I should retract what I said. I guess if they're going to happen, they should happen in the regular season in fantasy and then not in playoff time. Hopefully by playoffs, my team's fully healthy. Because when my team is fully healthy, I was winning games. I was doing so well. It's recently now that I've fallen to 500 because my team's injured. It's getting injured a little bit. So hopefully all that cleans itself up. Because come playoff time, a lot of times how it is it's who you got going that night. If you got 5 players going that night and your opponent has 2, more than likely you're going to gain ground on your opponent. For example, tonight I have 3 players going. He's got 8. I'm already losing. I can't afford to fall in a deeper hole. And then it's tough to make acquisitions because then if you drop a player and he comes back healthy and he's balling out and you don't have him, well, that's on you. And that's what's tough. I like my team. I've made 2 acquisitions this season. One was Kemba Walker when he came back from his injury, and I forget the other one. I know I had Aldridge and I dropped him. Although now he's playing well, but I'm not going to pick him up. I have no need for him on the roster. Because my forwards are perfectly fine. When AD comes back, Siakam, my forwards are fine. But all throughout the year. I mean, I can't complain because some people really struggle with injuries. I mean, for example, fantasy baseball. There was 2 games... No, before the season even started, I had 2 guys on the IL, and an opening day I had another guy get placed on the IL. So 1 game into the season in baseball, I had 3 guys already on my IL spots and only had 3 IL spots. But I am doing well in fantasy baseball. I'm winning by pretty much 100, and it looks like I'm on pace to win this week. So still got a couple days left in the matchup because then after Sunday, then you face a new opponent. It's the week. That's how it works in these fantasy. Obviously, fantasy football, it's also the week, but it's the Thursday, Sunday, and then Monday. So it's a little different, but obviously with games every day in the NHL, NBA, and MLB, it's that week. It's not like one specific day. Like, we all look at our lineups mainly on Sundays for NFL because that's really when most of the action's going. But yeah, I mean, I love fantasy, so I can't complain too much. I mean, you can't expect your team to be healthy all year because there's going to be injuries and stuff, but it's just tough when you have like the opponent I'm playing, I've beaten him before. That was when my team's healthy. So I shouldn't make too many excuses because everyone gets injuries and every team gets injured, but it's just hopefully by playoff time, we've got one more matchup left after this week, and then we head into playoffs. So hopefully by playoff time, my team's healthy and we get rolling, and we do well in the playoffs. But yeah, anyway, with all that being said, that'll do it for the podcast here today. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. It was another good podcast. Like I said, upcoming days here, there's gonna be a lot of hockey with trades and stuff like that. So hopefully you enjoy the good hockey talk. I know hockey's not as popular as some other sports, but I have a lot of fun watching it. I enjoy talking about it. So with the trade deadline coming up, I'll definitely be talking about some hockey stuff. So yeah, with all that being said, that will do it for the podcast here today. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.